let's take up these technicals for today. Today is the 1st of June, the first of the month on a Wednesday. And currently Bitcoin is at a range of, let's say, 30,500 to 32K. And it's currently sold down to 30,850. In today's fundamentals, we're going to touch on basis with what created the sell-off here from the starting of May, and what sort of brought us into the current range of accumulation that we're in at the 28 to 30K region. So we're going to look into a bit of fundamental news and basically look into a few different viewpoints to see why this sell-off happened, because this is a question that's been on a lot of people's minds. And we've been mentioning Terra Luna, we've been mentioning many other things, but it's important to clarify what created that sell-off. So today's discussion will be sort of working on these matters. So just bear with us now. The first thing I want to sort of show you here is this Glassnode's statistics here, right? So they published this on the 30th of March, just yesterday. And the tweet reads out, during the Terra Luna triggered sell-off in early May, a total of 80,081 BTCs were liquidated by the Luna Foundation Guard, which means 80,000 of them were sold off, right? And this was the first few weeks of May when the sell-off happened, right? The sell-off. And interestingly, the volume supply held by the entities under 100 BTC has since increased to 80,724. So we've had a change of guard, right? We've had a change of guard, which is pretty cool. This shows a transfer from LFG to people lesser than 100 BTC holders. So if we look into this chart here, we can see a swap took place between the Lunar Foundation Guard wallet and new buyers of that BTC, the 80,000 BTC. So we've had BTC buyers less than 100 buy into that sort of dip and accumulate those BTC. So that's what created this first dip here. 80,000 BTCs were sold off by Lunar Foundation Guard, right? That created this dip here, and since then that's been accumulated by many BTC holders less than 100 BTCs in their wallet. So we have a new perspective, a change of guard, right? That took place. That's why the sell-off happens, and now we're seeing a bit of recovery from there. Now, the second thing that we have to keep in mind is there's been a sell-off on all indices, on all stocks, on all currencies, and it's all down to this little sort of 10-year break-even inflation rate, right? So if we can see, it's currently at 2.64, and from the last end of the month to now, we've seen a little dip, right? So that dip is also showing us that, you know, the inflation rate has dipped a little bit, and that's also to do with less dollars in circulation, right? So to like basically enhance on what the 10-year break-even inflation rate is, we're gonna look into Chamath, a big Silicon Valley venture capitalist, and see his explanation to why we have the sell-off and are we set up for a rally. So just
when you see the
here.
people,
We're gonna watch a few minutes of this and see his reason behind the current sell-off. So let's watch this.
from the Fed, I think people weren't sure how aggressively they were going to hike. But by early this week, it was pretty clear there's going to be two 50-point hikes, one in June and one in July, and then effectively a pause, because then the Fed funds rate will be at around 2%. And everything from there will probably be path and data dependent. Okay, that's effectively what they said. Now, I think the markets had actually already started to see that writing on the wall So if you go back to, one of our favorite measures, which is the 10-year break even, it's effectively rolled over, which means that from the highs in sort of late April, it started to come down, which says that, they were thinking that, the inflation was not going to be as bad in the back half of the year. And then the second is that corporate credit, which is really what matters in some ways to the Fed, because that's where they can intervene. What is the spread above treasuries that a company can issue debt? When it goes crazy and it goes up, it means, oh no, the cost of capital is going up. That's going to be hard for companies to raise money. They may have to lay people off. They may need to get into cost cutting mode, right? That's what goes through everybody's mind. But that's also now about 35 and 40 days rolled over, which means that the gap has started to shrink, between the US Treasury price and what, decent corporates can issue debt at. So it looks like we are set up for potentially a decent little rally here. The problem is it a rally that is sustainable? Or is it a rally that's basically what we call a dead cat bounce or a bear market rally, where, you just get some 1 or 2 weeks of relief before the thing spears down again? And we're not going to know, although tomorrow on Friday, there's going to be a really important set of inflation data that gets released. And I think everybody's going to be sweating these details. So right now we're in a moment of pause. And there is the potential, if this data comes back as reasonably good, which means prices are, not escalating as much as we thought, inflation is not going to be as bad, growth is going to be moderate, that gives a lot of ammo for the Fed to kind of take their foot off the gas here. Example, like we hear a lot about Google or Facebook, right? And people will say, my gosh, this is cheap, because if you run a screen on it, it's like 10, 11, 12 times price to earnings. Well, the price, because you can look on the screen. The real question is, are the earnings right? And the thing that can take the market lower is if you actually think earnings are modeled incorrectly. If you think Facebook and Google, just as an example again, are cheap at 10 times, well, you better hope that the earnings are right. Because if the earnings are actually wrong, that's actually 27 times and 19 times. I'm making these numbers up to give you the example, because the earnings are fundamentally wrong. So that's the risk now that's left in the market, in my opinion, that could take it much, much lower, is if that, all of this slowdown really contracts spend and the earnings are actually not accurate. The forecasted earnings will need to be revised over the next 2 or 3 quarters, and that's where we will probably see the low. If, however, growth is muted and the Fed can, as Brad said, it's a really good analogy, now just course correct by degrees, a degree here, a degree there, we've probably consolidated the lows. The idea that over the last 4 or 5 years you optimized for anything except the market beta was kind of dumb. And the worst thing that you could have done in that period was confuse alpha and beta, meaning alpha is what you are able to do because of your discrete skill versus anybody else. Beta is when just the market goes up. Said differently, you could take any NBA player and put them on a high school basketball team, and they would be the college player of the year. Any single one. Okay, that's beta.
Yeah.
If you then can be the MVP of the NBA, that's alpha.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that a lot of folks were made to feel very silly or a downer or a wet blanket in these last few years, who will probably have the last laugh. When you see the people that make the money, 2 things are true. Number 1 is they're incredibly sharp elbowed, and number 2 is they make money in moments like this, right? If you look at Apollo's great returns or Blackstone's great returns or Cerebras, these folks were they really were the barbarians at the gates, and they made all the money in moments of true dislocation. If you apply that construct here, we've never had to go through a period where there are some real terms and conditions attached to the incremental dollar. And I think.
So I hope in those sort of brief few minutes, he kind of explains to us the importance of having a lower inflation rate, and to see what this sort of bounce in price has thus far been for Bitcoin, right? In the 32K region, and seeing if this is just a sort of sell to buy or buy to sell. We'll sort of see that as we sort of get through the next few possible weeks and see how the FOMC turns out, because I think we have FOMC this weekend. If we go down here, we can see that we have the FOMC speech. FOMC members may not speak. So we're gonna have a lot of news that will basically declare where the markets go, and in all things, not just crypto, but in the stock market and indices and many other things. So I hope that kind of explains a bit to you of what's happened and why we dipped on BTC the way we did, and why we're just overall in a bearish climate. Inflation rates and interest rates, all these things I hope are sort of clarified there, right? But Chamath like does a really good sort of viewpoint and predicts it pretty insightfully. So that's the starting point. That's what we see happen with Bitcoin and what what made the sell-off happen. So these are the main factors that we basically look into. Now I want to look into more adoption news, and let's start with MoneyGram. So MoneyGram, the big you can say cross-border payment service, right? So MoneyGram to open transfer platform for Stellar, I's wallet deal in El Salvador. MoneyGram CEO Alex Holmes said the international remittance stalwarts wants to bring a bridge between the crypto and fiat world. MoneyGram International, one of the world's largest cross-border transfer services, is partnering with the Stellar blockchain to create a stablecoin-based platform for money transfer. The new service will allow Stellar wallet users to send Circle USDC, so USDC, to recipients who will be able to cash them out for fiat currency through the MoneyGram network. We're trying to be a bridge from the crypto world to the fiat world. Right, so this is a straight quote from the CEO of MoneyGram, Alex Holmes, and he continues here. This is pretty bullish. Look what he says here. If a country like El Salvador is going to make Bitcoin seamless with US dollars in the country, I think the consumer through MoneyGram should be able to transfer Bitcoin to El Salvador or transfer dollars and convert them to Bitcoin. Right, so he sees value in what's going on here, right, guys? Like, he wants to see the easy means of using Bitcoin and transferring it straight into fiat, right? And he continues here. He goes, if that's the world, if that's where the world is going, let's participate in that world and let's see how we can help fulfill that opportunity. So very, very bullish adoption news from MoneyGram. Big adoption news. And I want to see how they sort of explore other countries in South America and Asia after they conquer El Salvador with the service. So that's great adoption news. Now, if you folks were up late last night, you guys were up trying to get on the Optimism airdrop. So Optimism airdrop overwhelmed by all-time high demands. Scaling is hard. That's the thing. So everyone tried to do the airdrop, and they were down for, I think, like 3 to 5 hours last night, making the first airdrop. So this is why, right? So they tweeted out, "Whoa, what a day! Airdrop number 1 had a turbulent launch, which we finally stabilized after more than 5 hours of non-stop work. Ethereum Layer 2 scaling solution Optimism has been overwhelmed with an all-time high demand following the launch of its highly anticipated airdrop on Wednesday. Users racing to collect their tokens were greeted with failed or delayed transaction as the Optimism team raced in the background to add additional capacity to the network." So yeah, the network was overwhelmed, and this was the first of its kind for Optimism to go through. I think nearly 250,000 addresses are able to receive the airdrop, with the eligible set for Optimism early adopters and regular Ethereum. So those were the individuals that were sort of eligible for the airdrop. So they continue here, and they're really honest with how they had to go through a lot of back end work to make this happen, and they made an honest word out for drop number 2. So they go. There are a lot of lessons we learned from this to apply to drop number 2. We'll be publishing an extensive retrospective network. Iteration is core to the Optimism ethos, and we always strive to apply today's lessons to tomorrow's problems. Alright, so this is positive news. Airdrop number 2 is going to be soon. So whenever it is, we at Cryptoverse will get it together. So yeah, this was the airdrop news from last night. So yeah, layer 2 solution Optimism is worth looking into for sure. So that's the airdrop news on Optimism. Let's continue. The next thing I want to look into is more adoption news. I think it's important to see this, right? So Russian central bank open to crypto for international payment. Crypto may end up being accepted alongside other payment methods such as ruble, gold, and the national currencies of politically friendly countries. Key takeaways. An official from the Russian central bank stated that it wouldn't object to the use of cryptocurrencies for international transactions. However, it still believes cryptocurrencies pose large risks to the Russian financial system as well as to Russian users. Russia is still considering new payment systems after seeing its access to the global financial system severely restricted from its invasion of Ukraine. So yeah, the Russian central bank is adopting to crypto for international payments. So this is bullish news, big adoption news. So let's continue with the news now. Now we're gonna focus a little bit on you can say a wallet, right? A new wallet has been built by Kirobo brand, right? So Kirobo wants to create an inheritance wallet for people that that right. It's a big use case for me. Like inheritance is a big utility in the real world. And it's pretty interesting to see how Kirobo are tackling this. So the article reads, DeFi crypto wallets aim to decentralize inheritance of crypto and NFTs. So Kirobo's new inheritance solution allows users to generate and execute an automated last will without the need for lawyers, government, authorities, or any other centralized entities. Yeah, because normally when you go through a will, you have to go through many different variations. You have to go through many different third parties. And this is the whole point about decentralized finance, to be able to go through this. So let's look into a quote from their folks here. So it reads here, future conditional transactions is a unique infrastructure based on smart contracts. It allows users to sign future transactions and to condition them on almost everything and anything. It allows third parties to develop complex services on blockchain without the need to develop smart contracts. They continue here. There's a growing trend of Web3 users holding significant sums in cryptocurrencies, increasingly relying on these assets in investment portfolios and retirement nest eggs. Naim noted, according to the CEO, the new tool unlocks a simple and secure inheritance mechanism to pass digital wealth to future generations while staying true to Web3's values of decentralization and community ownership. So yeah, they want to create a wallet for inheritance and make it easy for a person to pass on their cryptocurrencies to their loved ones when they pass away, and not go through so many different bodies like the government and lawyers and centralized entities. So that's pretty positive. Like in the future, we will be using this as our inheritance solution. Now I'm gonna take a little focus into Polkadot, because Polkadot did some big things this week, right? So let's look at the first thing that it did. So Polkadot's Moonbeam adds liquid staking giant Lido. The integration was facilitated by staking specialist MixByte. So yeah, so Lido is a big staking protocol on Substrate on Polkadot. and it's pretty cool to see Moonbeam bringing them to the face of it, right? So Polkadot is bringing liquid staking to its network of blockchains, allowing cryptocurrency holders who pledge to support the proof of stake network an avenue to increase their revenue streams by earning additional yield in decentralized finance applications. So Moonbeam, a connectivity layer between the Ethereum blockchain and services being built on Polkadot, is working with Lido, a staking derivative platform that allows Ether and other crypto locked up in staking contracts to be used elsewhere. So it's bringing like a huge bit of interoperability here, guys. This is really, really big news. So liquid staking is really a basic building block of the ecosystem. You said in the interview. So we're positioning Moonbeam as the best place to make multi-chain apps, as we believe there's a shift from people deploying apps with a single chain to deploying them to multiple chains, which is part of why we chose to build on Polkadot. Behind the scenes, these specialized components are being combined to present one simple application to the users. That's a little bit of our thesis in a nutshell. Apps are going to start to be built with multiple specialized chains, but at the same time, you're kind of hiding the complexity away. So yeah, that's the big news here. So Moonbeam brings in Lido, a big staking blockchain mechanism, to the Polkadot ecosystem. So that's the first news on Polkadot. The next thing I want to kind of focus on is Acala, a big crowd lounge a server lots got into, and understand this project a little bit, because this is going to be a big parachain in Polkadot's ecosystem. So what is Acala, right? Acala Acala is a DeFi smart contract platform that operates as a Polkadot parachain, right? So it's a Polkadot parachain for DeFi, and it wants to become the DeFi hub of Polkadot. Founded by two Polkadot developers teams, Laminar and Polka Wallet, the platform officially launched in January 2022. So yeah, so Polkadot is using it has its own stablecoin called AUSD. And AUSD can be used for many different things like liquidity providing, hedging, trading. It's going to have multiple use cases. It's going to be used as collateral and be used for many derivative moves. So it's pretty you can say bullish for the ecosystem. So Acala, I hope you guys can understand this a little bit. I want to further show you the ecosystem that's been built thus far on Acala. So just give me 1 second, and I'll show you this little chart here. So Acala, the ecosystem continues to grow. Check out the world-class team building in our ecosystem. So let's go check out the team that's built around the ecosystem. So in parachains, they have Unique, which is going to be the NFT marketplace and wallet for Polkadot. Not all, Centrifuge, Zeitgeist. They have wallets like Polkadot and MetaMask, Polkadot.js, Math Wallet involved. This ecosystem is really building quite nicely, and they have like sort of, you can say, gaming anchors. They have game DAOs. They have NFT marketplaces. They have the right bridges for interoperability, and yeah, Acala is becoming one of the big parachains on Polkadot. So yeah, keep an eye on the space, and yeah, do keep updated to see how this develops. But that's it for me for today. I hope I was able to kind of go through a bit of news with you guys, and we were able to cover why the sell-off happened, what MoneyGram have done to adopt for El Salvador users, the airdrop, the Optimism, and we covered the Russian central bank open to crypto for international payments, so adoption there. We found out about a inheritance wallet. And then we looked a little bit into two Polkadot layers, one called Moonbeam and the other ecosystem called Acala. So I hope that kind of gives you guys some insights. Thank you so much for hearing us out. Lightspeed.